Brothers and sisters, you viewers from the world, thank you for joining us in this dialogue on the abolition of the system of enslavement in the Dutch territories, which finally concluded on the 1st of July 1863. Why do we say finally? Because it seemed like the Dutch did not want or did not intend to, or was trying to find all sorts of ways how to circumvent the urgent demand of the enslaved people in its territories for freedom, for their liberation. And these territories included at the end of the colonial history of Holland, because Holland has had more colonies and has been active in slavery, not only in these ones that I mentioned now. There are Curazao, the islands of Curazao, Aruba, Bonaire, and the Caribbean, let us say the southern part of the Caribbean to the north of the western part of Venezuela, Saint Martin, Saba, Saint Eustatius, in the north of the Caribbean, in the eastern direction of Puerto Rico, and Suriname, between Guyana, with its capital Georgetown, and the French colonized Guyana with the capital Cayenne. And to the south it has Brazil as its border and neighbor. The Dutch had also South Africa as their colony, where they introduced the apartheid system. Apartheid is a Dutch word. And also Karl Marx, an intelligent and a brilliant thinker of Europe, reminded us of the Dutch activities in cultivating young men as slaves, as enslaved people on the island of Celebes, now known as Sulawesi in Indonesia. And just some time ago, as I saw the Queen of Britain coming to the United States to meet his family, long-time family, running the United States on the occasion of commemorating the establishment of the first British occupied territory or colony on this part of the world, now known as the United States, by the name of Jamestown, it was openly mentioned and reminded that the first set of enslaved Africans sold to those colonists was sold to them by a Dutch merchant. And the Dutch were quite active in slavery. The islands, in Guyana for example, that was once upon a time also run by the Dutch or colonized by the Dutch. We remember the big slave uprising that took place there way before the Haitian Revolution. In fact, under the leadership of Kofi, it was against the Dutch. Remember that Guyana was exchanged for New York and Suriname afterwards with the British. And many maroon fights and struggles have been going on in both Guyana and Suriname to free themselves from Dutch colonialism and Dutch enslavement. So those, what they call maroons, we would prefer to call them liberated brothers and sisters who liberated themselves and created liberated zones inside the bushes with their own defense force to defend themselves, fighting the colonial repressive slaveholders societies of the Dutch, the British, and the French around that area. And in Curazao, Saint Martin, Bonaire, Aruba, we've had the liberation struggles going on in their various forms, with big revolutions on many occasions that took place, that the Dutch, sometimes even with the help of the British or others, had to crush violently. Yet we see that in 1848 the Dutch were forced to abolish slavery in one part of their territory, which was Saint Martin, Saba, and Saint Eustatius. And the British, like Antigua, the British colonized islands, like Antigua, were liberated from slavery in 1833. And as after the period of the British called the apprenticeship took place until 1838, slavery was totally abolished in the entire British territory. So why was it that the Dutch, seeing that the British, the French, and also the Danish in St. Thomas and St. John and what is now the US Virgin Island, then was Danish colonized. All of them, up until 1848, had abolished slavery. So the Africans and the people oppressed in St. Martin, Saba, and St. Eustatius started to demand their liberation as well, and quickly and urgently, and they went in uprising. And the Dutch had to go back, had to move back, and recognize their liberation in 1848, but under strict military guidance. Because Curazao, Aruba, Bonaire, and Suriname were not yet proclaimed emancipated from slavery. Why was that? Because the slaveholders class and their representatives in the Dutch parliament and government were demanding indemnization, and that money had to be justified, the collected and justified, as to pay each and every slaveholder and plantation holder who had never paid 1 cent for the labor of those he has exploited and owned as cattle. Upon that, he was granted $100, $80, $50 guilders in the Dutch currency for letting the slaves be free. And that is a very serious passage in the history of the peoples of the Caribbean, the people of Africa, and the peoples of the world. It has to be seen as one. Therefore, there are people who say that, yes, 1863, we don't have to celebrate it because the official version say it was like a charity, it was like a gift to the slaves or the enslaved people, that the government gave them their independence by using the Roman Catholic Church and other Christian churches also to participate in the preparation, education-wise, other people to accept abolition of slavery, but to accept, on the other hand, at the same time, Dutch colonialism as a continuous manifestation in those territories. That was all that was needed, and was done also before on July 1st of July 1863, finally, the Dutch government officially decided to recognize and proclaim the abolition. Our warmest salute to the people of Suriname on Kitty Kotti Day, as they call it. Kitty Kotti, meaning to say the chain is cut. Yes, the chain of enslavement has been cut. And now we got to go on forward to our liberation. A warm salute to the people of Anton de Com. A warm salute to the people of Tula, Bashanga Pata, Luis Messier, and Pedro Wacao, and the islands of Curazao, Bonaire, Aruba, St. Martin, Saba, and St. Eustatius, and all of you over there in Holland who has been written us, asking us to do this show on the abolition of slavery on the 1st of July, 1863. And listening brothers and sisters and you viewers of Radio Eugene Godfried International, I am Eugene Godfried, yours with love.